My name is Leslie Roman.
Ms. Roman, what do you do?
I'm an accident reconstructionist.
Where did you go to school to become an accident reconstructionist?
I received my bachelor's in engineering from the University of Texas at Austin.
And what experience do you have in accident reconstruction?
I've been constructing accidents for about the past 8 years. I also own my own accident reconstruction firm.
Now, when you're reconstructing an accident, what facts do you rely upon?
Ideally, I'd like to have any eyewitness reports, police reports, photos of the crash scene. I like to go to the crash scene myself, and the car or cars that are involved in the accident.
Did you have access to such facts in this case?
Yes, I did. The police department here in Midlands was very forthcoming and cooperative.
And what methods do you use to analyze these facts?
I take all that information and apply it to formulas that are found in the Windsor-Strasbourg primer. It's an article that all accident reconstructionists are familiar with and rely upon. And I reconstruct the accident from that.
Now, in your work in this case, what factors did you focus on?
The first thing I focused on were the speeds.
Now, you said speeds. Were there multiple speeds that you focused on in this case?
Oh, yes, ma'am, there were. I had to first find the speed at which Miss Dawson exited the roadway, and then the speed at which she re-entered the roadway.
Now, Ms. Roman, do you believe it would be helpful to the jury to use a demonstrative to explain these two different speeds?
Oh, yes, I do.
Your Honor, may the witness step down to make use of a demonstrative?
Yes, witness. You need to reposition yourself. Excuse me, stand to reposition.
Now, Ms. Roman, you were talking about the speeds. Could you please explain why there were two different speeds in this case?
Sure. Do you have a marker? I'd like to read.
Here you go.
I had to find the speed at which Miss Dawson left the roadway at this point here, and then the point at which she re-entered the roadway here and impacted the tree and the utility pole.
And what did you find that the speeds were in this case?
Objection, Your Honor. Improper opinion. Not enough foundation has been laid as to her expertise in this case. We've simply heard that she has a bachelor's in engineering as well as some experience in the field. However, no specific training for accident reconstruction has been mentioned. In addition, no evidence corroborating her accuracy in the past has been mentioned.
All right, sustained, but I'll allow you to proceed and ask a few questions to lay the proper predicate for this question. So if you can lay the proper foundation, and I'll allow the testimony.
Yes, Your Honor. Now, Ms. Roman, you said you're an accident reconstructionist. What training did you have in order to become an accident reconstructionist?
Well, in order to start my own firm, I had to work under a number of people. In addition to that, I always stay up to date on any classes for accident reconstructionists that are offered here.
Now, you mentioned a primer that you use. How do you use that primer to analyze facts in this case?
Well, there are formulas within those primers, that primer that you're talking about, that all accident reconstructionists rely upon and I've been using for the past 8 years.
And did you apply that primer to the facts in this case?
I do.
Now, Ms. Roman, we're talking about the speeds. What did you find that the speeds of the car were in this case?
The speed at which Miss Dawson exited the roadway was 51 miles per hour. The speed at which she re-entered the roadway and impacted the tree and the utility pole was 35 miles per hour.
Now, earlier in court today, Officer Foster told us that Ms. Dawson was going 66 miles per hour. Could you tell us why your calculations and his calculations are different?
I reviewed Officer Foster's report, and I found that she used different numbers than I did. She used what's called a wide object formula. In the primer, there are both wide object and narrow object formulas. In this case, Officer Foster should have used the narrow object formula because both of the objects that the car impacted were narrow.
So were the speeds that you calculated in this case correct?
Yes, they were because I used the correct number, the narrow object formula.
Now, you said you focused on the speed as a factor in this case. What else did you look at when reconstructing the accident?
Ma'am, I looked at the conditions of the road and the conditions of the area surrounding the road itself.
Well, let's talk about those two things. What did you find in regards to the conditions of the road?
Well, I found that the guardrail isn't sufficiently covering any part of the road. In addition to that, the shoulder is very small.
Let's talk about that guardrail first. What was wrong with the guardrail?
Well, at the time of the accident, the guardrail extended only to about here.
Well, you said at the time of the accident. Is the guardrail different now?
Objection, Your Honor. What the state of the guardrail is now is completely irrelevant to today's case.
On what grounds are you asking to? On what grounds? Where are you trying to proceed with this question? Line of questioning with regard to the guardrail.
Your Honor, at the time of the accident, the guardrail did not extend to where the accident occurred. Because the guardrail has been changed, it shows that there was an issue with the guardrail and that it wasn't sufficiently protecting the site of the accident.
May I respond, Your Honor? Though I agree that the length of the guardrail at the time of the accident is relevant to today's case, any difference in the length of the guardrail currently is in no way an admission of fault by any party, and therefore is irrelevant to today's case.
You know, this is all about relevance. We've had like an introduction to talking about the guardrail on both cross and direct on both sides, so I'm going to allow this testimony brief if you keep it brief on this. So overruled.
Yes, Your Honor. Now you said that guardrail was like that at the time. Is it different now?
Yes, it is. The guardrail actually extends past the point of the accident to about here. Now, what you need to understand is important about guardrails is that they protect motorists from any kind of outside factors other than the road. That's another thing I found. The trees around the road were about to grow dangerously close. And since there was no guardrail to protect motorists from those trees, it's just too dangerous to not have a guardrail.
Now you said earlier that you also focused on dangers of the road. What do you mean by that?
Well, as you can see here, there's this very dangerous curve. There aren't any signs warning motorists of the upcoming curve, and in addition to that, the road is very dark. There aren't any lights there.
Now, what did you determine to be the cause of this accident?
Based on Ms. Dawson's testimony and the angle at which she left the roadway, it's consistent that she made an evasive maneuver to avoid something that suddenly appeared in her way, in this case, a deer.
Now, earlier today, we heard from Ms. Hobson, and she said she was sitting in the back seat of the car and she didn't see a deer. Could the fact that she was sitting in the back seat be the reason why she didn't see a
Objection,
deer?
Your Honor. Speculation.
Sorry, can you finish your question? I'll make a ruling on that. So actually, can you start over with the
Yes,
question?
Your Honor.
I'll make a ruling. If you ask the entirety of the question, but don't answer the question.
All right.
Now, earlier today, we heard from Ms. Hobson, and she said she was sitting in the back seat of the car. Could this be the reason why she didn't see a deer?
Objection, Your Honor. Speculation.
Sustained.
May I respond, Your Honor?
I'm sustaining the objection.
Okay. Now, Ms. Roman, why was an evasive maneuver necessary in Ms. Dawson's case?
Well, it was necessary because something suddenly appeared in Ms. Dawson's road.
Objection, Your Honor. Speculation as to what may or may not have occurred at that time.
Your Honor, this is not speculation, as Ms. Roman is testifying to her findings in this case. She used reliable principles, methods, and facts to determine that Ms. Dawson's movements of the car are consistent with there being something in the road. She's not speculating to anything.
As long as the jury, I'd like the jury to understand this is merely her opinions, so to keep it limited to her opinions and not that it's actually conclusive fact.
Yes, Your Honor.
So,
That's all I ask, Your Honor.
Ms. Roman, in your work in this case, what did you determine to be the cause of the accident?
Ms. Dawson exited the roadway because of using an evasive maneuver, meaning something suddenly appeared in her path. However, she impacted the tree and the utility pole because she hydroplaned when she tried to re-enter the roadway.
Thank you, Ms. Roman. Your Honor, I pass the witness. And, Your Honor, I also ask that my demonstrative be preserved.